everybody, welcome inside to our cozy nook that is League on Lock. Eric and Mark here with you guys today, and SKT may not be heading to Worlds 2018, but we're still going to give them a shout out and look back at the greatest series that they've ever had at the World Championship, because there's been quite a few, because they got 3 titles, been to the finals 4 times. It's the second time they're going to miss Worlds, but they're still a mainstay at the event.
Yeah, there certainly have been some amazing and awesome tournaments and some series played out by SKT. Unfortunately, not going to be adding to it this year, missing out on Worlds. That doesn't mean we can't look back and see some of these fantastic series again.
And before we dive into that top 5, we just got to showcase how dominant SKT has been at Worlds and how prominent they've been at the event. 51-18, and 8 of those losses, by the way, came in 2017 when they struggled. Obviously, they finished first in their group all 4 times they've been there, 3 titles, and they have beaten 19 unique organizations in their career at Worlds.
Yeah, and you have to think about the times that they've missed out on Worlds. 2014, the last time it was in South Korea. This was an interesting moment because it really lit a fire under Faker and the rest of SKT to put together some strong performances. And oh boy, did they ever put together some strong performances, going on to win the next 2 World Championships, and again, repeating 2 times as MSI champions. Certainly, probably the most dominating stretch of League of Legends ever in the game's history.
We'll see if they can get back to that. The last time they missed or didn't win a championship for 2 years was the first 2 seasons of League of Legends, before Korea was really involved. But let's get into the list, starting with number 5, and it's RNG versus SKT. RNG dominating 2018, but they could not get past SKT in 2017 semifinal action. Obviously, it went 5 games, and this one was known for, of course, 5 Galio games in a row for Faker, but game 1 started off pretty darn good for RNG.
Yeah, you certainly have to put this series at number 5. There's no other way to do it. 5 Galio games, you're getting number 5 on our list right here. And I can tell you, from being there in Shanghai for this series live there, everybody in the arena, come game 3 or 4, it didn't matter that there was a language difference. Everybody there was kind of sighing and gasping to themselves, oh please, RNG, either ban out or take the Galio away from Faker. Wasn't happening, and it led to the SKT victory in this series.
Yeah, it's surprising that Yahoo didn't at least take it away from him a few times. I mean, he picked Rise into it, saying, I'll take away one of your staple champions, Faker. But he has a lot of staple champions that he's had over the years. Obviously, this Worlds was the Ardent Sensor meta. And by the way, Yahoo getting solo kills. So, he was very good on the Rise. But obviously, this was the Ardent Sensor meta. So, I mean, Uzi was thriving in it. Bang was struggling at times for SKT. But RNG, one of a few teams that have gotten a 2-1 advantage against SKT in a best of 5. But again, just coming up short.
Yeah, see, it's a totally different story. I don't care if you're up 2-0, 2-1, whatever it is. Until that final score is 3 games in your favor over a South Korean League of Legends team, you gotta still do some work. And this is exactly what happened here. RNG find a way to get an advantage in this series. They even had Uzi playing the Vayne. The Vayne wasn't really even part of the meta at this point in time.
It's always meta for Uzi.
But for Uzi, it always is, and they were able to dominate and get that exciting win with it. But of course, the Galio pick keeps coming through for Faker, and it's all about him, and it's all about SKT finding a way to win this series and move on to the finals.
There was explosive team fights in this set. It ends up coming down to a huge Gnar engage by Huni, who got a lot of flack for his time on SKT, but me oh my, after 2018, I think SKT fans would love to have Huni on the roster.
Yeah, and they would take either the 2017 Huni or the 2018 Huni. Either one of them would be a better option for them in that top lane, you'd have to think. And especially the fun thing to watch here with that play from Huni is just the confidence that he has to make that type of engage on the Gnar, which leads to that winning team fight for SKT. You're not really seeing that out of any of these members nowadays, so to see that play brings a smile to my face.
And for RNG, it was, again, second straight year. They lose to SKT in the knockout round. Could not get the best of them, but 2018, RNG will not have to deal with SKT. And even if they were facing this roster, I feel like Royal would completely crush them. Let's move on to number 4. We're going in the way, way, way back machine. Not that far. About 5 years ago to Season 3, SKT's first time at Worlds. Semifinal action against Najin Sword. You'll remember some of the faces on both of these lineups. Obviously, Najin had Prey. This was early on the Faker versus Prey rivalry, just to showcase how long Prey has been around. Najin was actually the top seed out of Korea. SKT had to play through the group stage where they finished 7-1, and then these guys met up in the semifinals. And this is when AP Gragas was absolutely disgusting. Nogne was popping off on the champion. That's a name you probably haven't heard in a long time as well. He was styling on Faker in some of these games.
I can tell you, that's one thing I'm not missing out on, that mid lane AP Gragas. Not missing out on that type of champion. But this is a nice little flashback reminder here. It's gonna bring some tears to my eye watching Bengi play this jungle and giving Faker some pressure in the jungle. And of course, you've got Piglet there and Impact, both of our soon-to-be NA residents, looking at them picking up a world championship with this roster.
And Piglet's performance at this world championship was totally underrated. Faker, I mean, deservedly the MVP of it, but Piglet was fantastic on the likes of the Vayne, the Ezreal, the Corki, all the meta picks. He was a serious secondary carry for SKT. Obviously, when Faker gets to play things like Ahri, it's pretty disgusting. He had some awesome engages in this game. Again, SKT went down 2-1 in this set. But in that fourth game, it was all the 2v2, and Piglet, again, was the main carry in this game to bring them back into it. The 100-acre bottom lane, Pumandu and Piglet carried that one to force it into a decisive 5th game where Faker got his Orianna and had some good shockwaves to secure the win.
Faker, of course, if you haven't heard it already, his grandma talked about watching Faker play Orianna as he's growing up, and she said, it's pretty simple. All you do is hit level 6, spam Shockwave. Well, Faker wasn't spamming Shockwave, but he sure was landing some massively critical Shockwaves in this one, helping SKT get the victory.
It'd be a pretty good ability if you could spam it if it had a 20-second cooldown. SKT wins it in 5. Who knows how the legacy changes if Najin actually comes away with that win. You know, Prey probably gets a world championship before Faker even does, and maybe that completely changes the timeline of competitive League of Legends, but it didn't happen.
Nope.
SKT wins it. That was a fantastic set. Probably the best series of Season 3, and just one of the many amazing series that SKT has played at Worlds. And coming up on the other side, we'll continue the countdown. Misfits put up a show against SKT and give them all that they can handle. This is League on Lock, and it's a special episode because we're playing homage to SKT as they will not be at Worlds 2018. So we're looking back at the best series they ever played at Worlds. And spoilers, most of the best series that have been played at Worlds have featured SKT.
Yeah, some of the most historic moments in League of Legends, of course, featuring SKT and Faker right there, making history every time. And unfortunately, again, not going to be able to see it this year at Worlds, but that doesn't mean looking back and enjoying some of these moments isn't a fun thing to do.
And we're into the top 3 now, where we're talking about the greatest chance a Western team has ever had at taking down SKT at a World Championship. Of course, we're looking at the quarterfinals of last year, Misfits versus SKT, where Misfits put on an absolute show. And how did they make it so close? Basically, one team fight, one overextension away from winning the series. It was off-meta picks, picking some weird stuff in the bottom lane, and it worked. The most surprising thing about this series is how Misfits rebounded from Game 1. Because in Game 1, they got completely dumpstered.
Game 1 is what you expected heading into this one. You're like, all right, another Western region team heading into the SKT dungeon here. It's going to be a quick 3 games, no problem. And of course, after Game 1, yeah, we're right on track. We're looking pretty fast in this one. SKT stomps all over Misfits and steamrolls them to an early victory.
Yeah, and I mean, coming into this set, everyone said, I don't think Misfits win a game. Maybe they do if SKT kind of trolls and pick and ban. Well, it was Misfits who were trolling with the Blitzcrank in Game 2. Ignar had a heat-seeking missile on Faker in this game. There were countless pulls that he nabbed on him in these mid to late game team fights. And Misfits, actually a pretty darn convincing win in game 2. So right away, you're like, whoa, what the heck are we expecting here? Then they come back in game 2 with the press the attack Leona, and this 2v2, everyone was losing their mind, myself included.
It's total insanity going on here, how everyone's just going away through here. And then, of course, the Leona. Oh, this is something that, like, I don't even really understand here, right? Because Leona, I'm not a support player. Leona's not all that exciting for me. I don't like it that much. But some of the older players that have played Leona for such a long time, the veterans of League of Legends, they love this champion. And to see it pop off and come back into pro play when it hadn't been for so long in this series, and to see it be such a vital pick for Misfits, oh boy, that was a treat.
And then you had Game 4, match point Misfits. They have a 4,000 to 5,000 gold lead, and then they overextend into SKT's base. They dive too deep. They got hypey. Play it slow. They don't do that. SKT, Bang goes untouched, cleans up the fight. It's still the Ardent Sensor meta. Even when you're behind, you got that shield going, and he's going to be an absolute animal. And then this Realm Warp in. By the way, if Bang takes that Realm Warp, SKT loses the game because he's going to get one shot. But he stays on the outside, gets a quadra kill, and then that's a cleanup into Game 5 where you have the Huni TP flank where he one combos Power of Evil. And when it got to Game 5, you knew SKT was winning.
Now, this is exactly where you knew SKT was winning because, of course, it was Jace in the top lane, and it wasn't NA Jace. It was just Huni.
Formerly NA Jace.
Almost NA Jace, but he played it like a Korean Jace and dominated there with that split push. And it was such an incredible series. And I thought when you were mentioning seeing the greatest Western team try to take down a Korean team, I thought you were going to be talking about Cloud9 and the clapping again. But no, it's not that. It's all about Power of Evil in the Misfits. They had it. They were so close. Fight. Just literally just focus on the turret. Don't push too much. And you guys had it. But nope. Tried to push a little bit too far, end the game too early, and SKT punishes you for that, and they find a way to win the series.
Nobody gave Misfits a chance, and they will be remembered for a very long time, although they would have been remembered a lot more if they actually won the series. Go for the inhib, don't dive the turret. Let's roll on to number 2, where we've got a couple of series actions from 2016. It was so close to a blowout in the World Finals of 2016. Samsung versus SKT, so close. And then Samsung made it even closer the other way to completely turn it around. Samsung dominated the bracket stage coming into the finals, but SKT was obviously a cut above the rest of the competition in the league. And after a very back and forth blitz of a game in Game 1, it's SKT that came away, and they'd eventually take a 2-0 lead, and it looked like it was all done.
This series was total insanity this whole time because, of course, yes, SKT were able to get out in front and get these game advantages in this series. But the big thing that was crazy is like all of these matches were going over 50, 60, even upwards to close to 70 minutes in some of these matches, which is totally insane, the idea that these team fights were going on and you're getting that late and it's still not ending off of one team fight. Just total insanity on the map.
Yeah, Game 1, like I said, was super back and forth. SKT barely come away. Game 2, much more confident and dominating in their form. So you're thinking, all right, that's all she wrote. SKT gonna 3-0 this. You've got to be pretty darn tilted if you're Samsung to be so close in Game 1, get blown out in Game 2, and then you head into Game 3 and it's a 7-0 start for SKT. Rack it up, boys. Back-to-back champs. But somehow, Samsung drags this one out until 70 minutes when Ambition, the god himself, steals the Elder Dragon. With 4 dragon buffs, and then completely turns around this game for Samsung. I still don't know how they lasted this long in this game. They get the Elder, and they survive. They avoid the sweep.
Yeah, I remember being there, and you're thinking to yourself at this point in time in the day, you're kind of like, oh, it's around 6:30 or so. I can get out of here, get something to eat, maybe hit up the local taco truck out here. But no, not happening because Samsung says, we're not done playing League of Legends, folks. You're going to be sitting in those seats for another hour and a half to 2 hours here because we're pushing this one to a Game 5.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, Game 4, it was super back and forth. Cuve's Kennen was absolutely disgusting. He got a couple of fantastic flanks, and much like Game 1, only this time, it's Samsung that comes away with it, and yeah, we're going into Game 5. What looked like was going to be a clean sweep. Now we're looking like it's going to be a reverse sweep in favor of Samsung. Some key fights around Baron, though, and SKT does it. Even Game 5 was not really convincing either way until the last 10 or so minutes where SKT pulled away with it. It looked a lot harder than it was going to be at the start, but SKT wins back-to-back, but holy moly, that was some high-quality gameplay.
Oh, it was unbelievable level of League of Legends being put on there. And hey, I want to give a little quick shout out to the floor map that you had there of Summoner's
Pretty
Rift.
sweet.
Pretty good, but hey, you saw what we've previewed for the LPL finals. That's the next level version of that. But getting back to the SKT victory there against Samsung was really special, a fantastic victory there. And hey, in Game 5, one of my favorite things to watch there, of course, is Faker picking away Crown's Victor right there, right in front of him, says, hey, this is your champion, I'm gonna play it, and I'm gonna win Worlds with it on it. And that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, Crown was solo killing Faker on that patented Victor pick in that set. So, I mean, good pick and ban for them to take it away. And obviously, Samsung would get their vengeance against SKT in 2017. But 2016 was the year of SK Telecom. Coming up after the break, the #1 game on our list, not just the greatest series in Worlds history, the greatest series of all time. Welcome back here to League on Lock. Eric and Mark with you, and we're looking back at the greatest series in the history of the World Championship that featured SKT, which again are just the best series that Worlds has ever seen because SKT is always prominent. We're on to the #1 series of our list, and not only is it the best series that SKT has played at Worlds, it's the best series that anyone has played ever in any region at any event. We're talking, of course, about the ROX Tigers versus SKT 2016 semifinal action. And ROX, obviously, they were Coup Tigers in 2015 where they lost to SKT, and then they came into 2016 looking for some vengeance against SKT. They were the hurdle that they could not get over in 2016.
No, just couldn't get by them there. But though you do have to remember, in the regular season part of it, it was the ROX Tigers getting the advantage over SKT. But heading into this series here at Worlds, all the expectation, of course, is on SKT. They're stomping, they're stormrolling through everybody. They avoided the clapping from Jensen. There's no way that they're not going to be able to get to the finals. But oh no, you've got ROX Tigers in your path, and they're saying, hey, you got to get through us first.
Yeah, and pretty much everyone was saying, this is the finals. These were the two best teams at the event, and Game 1 was pretty convincing, not super convincing, but definitely SKT had the edge and were rolling with the game. But Game 2, ROX came right back into it. They were just diving bottom lane. The pick and ban in this series was absolutely amazing. The fact that Smeb survives there is absolutely amazing. But Ashe pick ban pretty much every game, the Ashe Zyra.
That's
and
gross.
in Game 2,
that's gross. Right there.
In Game 2, the support Misfortune comes in.
I wanna see
SKT says, I have no idea what this is. You have the Ashe arrow from Prey that stops Duke's teleport from across the map
Oh my God.
to win Game 2 for ROX.
Get this other marksman out of my bot lane. One marksman per bot lane. Come on, folks. This was insanity here. And not only that, not only did you get to see that type of bot lane, of course you had Peanut on the signature Lee Sin and Smeb on the Rumble in the top lane. Some of my favorite champions to watch from these players. Really a special treat this series was.
SKT says, oh, you know, we'll figure out the Misfortune pick next game. We don't need to ban it. Well, they got completely clobbered by it in Game 2. Look at this combo. What are you supposed to do if you're an innocent little Zyra hanging out there? Wolf had no chance in this game. Bang could just watch his support die. And then there were so many highlights from this series. One of the best is obviously this 2v4 from the likes of Prey and Peanut. Ashe as a champion was just absolutely disgusting in this tournament.
It's just totally crazy to see this level of play coming through from just these two champions into this 2v4 matchup. Total insanity again. I can't keep saying it because it's nuts. awesome play there to get the full wipeout there.
These team fights seem to last 45 seconds in pretty much all the games in this series. And yet again, SKT goes down 2-1. So game 4, Bengi comes in, and they accidentally pick him Nidalee, champion he's rarely ever played on a stage, even in solo queue, and he comes in and completely carries SKT.
I'm not 100% certain on this, but I'm pretty sure it was the first time, at least that year, that he had played Nidalee.
That year for sure.
And everybody was not expecting it. They knew it was a power pick, but this is where Rox Tigers said, hey, if you can't play this, we're just not going to ban it. And Bengi says, hey, I actually can play this. And here's a pretty darn good example of it, and SKT use it to tie up the series.
So Bengi won game 1, and then he subbed out for blank, and then they lose 2 games, so they say Bengi come back in, and he goes on Nidalee. Then he comes in game 5 on the Lee Sin. They kill Peanut. They lose the Baron, but they clean up so many kills on this fight. Bengi is often, not so much anymore, but was just the right hand of God, the second fiddle to Faker. But in this series, he was far and away the MVP. Gets the kick onto Prey to take him down. He comes in and the series completely shifts. That combined with, banning Misfortune.
Yeah, banning Misfortune is a huge change in this series, but you're certainly right. It's normally all about Faker and what Bengi is doing beside him, how the two of them are able to contribute to this game. But you certainly have to say, and all the SKT players know it right there,
kudos.
It's gotta be Bengi. Bengi is the guy that got you through this series. And yeah, you're right, Eric. This is absolutely the best League of Legends series of all time.
Yeah, just
no.
Poor Peanut. He said,
Sad times.
It's okay, guys. I'll just join SKT next year, and then we'll win Worlds, right? Poor Peanut. He gets to Worlds, to the World Finals, and doesn't win with SKT. But yeah, just the level of play across the board, the storylines that these teams had developed throughout the LCK season leading into that final, and then even just you can pinpoint marquee plays and moments within a series. It was almost like a season itself in 5 games with the Ashe Arrow, the 2v4, Bengi coming in on Nidalee. These are all almost season storylines that you're following, and it all went down in a 5-game span. I don't know if we'll ever see a series that was that good.
I'm not expecting a series like that good for a long time here, and it's even more special because you got to remember that heading into that year's Worlds, the 2016 World Championships, it had been a while. You had those years of dominance from SKT, and everyone is still expecting it, but the narrative had shifted over who the game's best player was. A lot of people were saying Smeb was the top player in the world heading into this tournament, and this was a great series where Faker said, nuh-uh. Not on my watch, buddy. I'm still the best in the world.
Yeah, he's still, obviously, Bengi got a lot of the spotlight in that set, but obviously Faker was still Faker and performed at a fantastic level. SKT had subbed Duke in for Marin because Marin had left the squad, and they're still able to win with a new top laner. And that was basically the peak of the SKT era, going back-to-back championships at Worlds. And now, here we are, 2018. Press F to pay your respects to SKT, because they will not be there at Worlds. Hoping for a bounce back in 2019, because these guys have been at the top for so long, it feels weird to not see them there.
No, I would love to see SKT retool, get some young blood in to help Faker out once again, and if that's not going to happen, I think it might be time to see Faker move on to a new team.
That's all the time today for League on Lock. Eric and Mark here with you guys. Thank you so much for watching.